Hello, my love. Hello, good morning. I am dropping in today with another meditation. If you haven't seen my story highlight, and if you're catching this live or you're catching this on the replay and you want to know more context, you can head to the story highlight called Unity, all about the power that we have individually to send love to create major healing on the planet. And so much of that starts from coming into a harmonious state of love and unity within. So today is all about forgiveness and compassion and being able to forgive others who have maybe hurt us or done wrong and find compassion for the soul beneath the being, right? And before I get into the meditation itself, I want to share a tiny story about this and how this practice changed my life. Because when we look at struggle in the world and we look at what's currently happening in multiple places, and I don't want to get too much into politics and more division in even bringing it up, and that's why this meditation felt so important today. Because when we are, hello, welcome, when we are at war within ourselves or war with one another, when we are in separation, in division, when we're frustrated, right? When we are focusing on the negative things that people might be doing. Granted, there could be very hurtful, harmful things that are taking place, but we are then in the energy and we are creating more of that. And I don't know about you, but I know at times in my life when I have been extremely hurt or extremely angry, I perpetuate that. And I take actions from my wounds instead of taking action from a grounded, balanced heart. And that can still mean I speak up for myself or I set boundaries, but I'm doing it from a place of love instead of doing it from a place of extreme pain and fighting back against someone else. So forgiveness and how this can shift things is like, years ago I was in Bali and I was going to this yoga class every day. I was very deep in my grieving process towards my brother. It had been for just over 5 years since my brother passed away suddenly. And it had been about 3 years, I think, since I had been raped. And both of those were very pivotal, traumatic moments in my life that created a lot of grief and pain and anger and heartbreak and all the heavy emotions, right? Now, I was at this yoga class with my favorite teacher, and she did a meditation for forgiveness. And it was the experience of bringing up people who we are angry at, people who have devastated us or really hurt us or let us down, and being able to separate their human pain and their human suffering that caused them to act in a certain way with the essence and purity of their heart and soul. And for me in this moment, bringing up the person who pressured my brother to take a prescription drug, and that prescription drug ended my brother's life. And I had the most intense anger and hatred for this person for years because of what had happened. No one would recognize me. I don't even recognize who I was back then because of the amount of hate that was in my heart. And in this meditation, bringing this person as if I'm sitting beside them at a coffee table, feeling the amount of anger, rage, all the heavy emotions coming up to the surface, allowing myself to process them. We're not bypassing, we're not ignoring that they exist, but then beginning to separate, as I said, the wounds and pain and trauma and belief systems and constructs in that guy's life that caused him to think what he was doing was okay or normal. The underlying pain that was causing him to act in his life the way that he was, pulling that part aside to see the heart and soul, even maybe seeing the wounded inner child, and acknowledging like what his true essence was beneath the actions, and being able to then bring in the spirit of compassion, the spirit of forgiveness, the spirit of kindness. And it was the most profound relief for me at that time. And that's what we're going to be doing here today. Because if we are holding the same emotions and energies that I just shared that I was holding, right? I'm not immune to this. We all have these experiences and struggle to forgive. But say I'm still holding that towards this guy, for example, then it's kind of hard for me to expect myself to be loving and kind and forgiving and compassionate to humanity at the greater large, right? Because I will always find fault. I'll always be able to find a judgment. I'll always be able to find something that someone did that doesn't match what I want or what I think is right. And I think that's what we see at the grand scale right now, is that so many people are still holding so much trauma and pain and wounding, but then they are thinking that they know best, and they're judging and blaming and shaming everyone else. Well, every single one of those people is also holding pain and wounding, and could quite possibly be judging them, right? And holding resentment towards them because they are reflecting a similar pain or a similar wounding or a way of showing up in the world. And the only way we combat that, and the only way we actually heal that, is through forgiveness. Otherwise, the cycle just continues, and we will always find a trigger in a person because they reminded me of this person who hurt me before, and I haven't forgiven them, and I haven't gotten over that, so now I'm going to be angry at this person, or now I'm going to put my guard up, or I'm going to be rude, or I'm not going to be loving and kind. I'm not going to give them equality, right? There's just so many layers to it in how it affects the way that we show up, and therefore the ability to love unconditionally and the ability to spread that positive vibration to elevate all around the world. So, with all that said, forgiveness is our superpower. Thank you for the reminder. No coincidence of the timing of your beautiful message. Yay, thank you for saying that, and I'm so glad it resonated. I was like, what am I going to talk about today for this meditation for peace and love and unity? And it was just like so strongly, the only thing I could think of was forgiveness. I think forgiveness is the only way that we're then able to see the other being as equal and not separate, right? As long as we are focusing on the fault, or as long as we're focusing on judgments or things that come from our pain and our wounding and our beliefs and constructs of what is right or wrong or good or bad or evil or loving, right? Then we can't see them as one. We can't see them as another part of us. We'll always just see them as the other, as separate, and that just fuels more division and hate. So although this whole meditation series is about unconditional love around the world and like global peace and world peace and unity, today's meditation is actually going to start with just us and the forgiveness that starts here first with those in our life. So with that said, thank you so much for listening. If you would like to join me on this meditation, you can get into a comfortable position and place your phone beside you or somewhere where it's like out of your space but you can hear me, and you can close your eyes once you're there. Just taking a few nice deep breaths, really paying attention to the oxygen as it flows in and the feeling of peace and release as it exhales out. Allowing yourself to relax deeper and deeper into your body and into the present moment, into the chair or the bed or the floor beneath you. And this meditation is going to bring up some emotions, so I invite you to be compassionate to yourself and witness them, feel them, allow yourself to be with them. In my world, we don't run from emotions. We embrace them, all of them, right? I think that's where the true healing lies. So begin to imagine that you are walking into maybe a coffee shop or an environment that feels really safe to you. This could even be somewhere out in nature. But just see your feet stepping one foot at a time, walking you to this place. And there's a table there with 4 chairs set up. There's no one around, just you. As you take in the scenery, you look at the room or the space around you. And you just take a few more deep breaths here, breathing it all in, feeling yourself relax a little bit more with every single breath. And then imagine that you are sitting down at one of the chairs. And we're going to invite 3 people to join you. Okay? So these 3 people, they might come to mind right away. One of them is the person who you are struggling with the most to forgive. Someone who has hurt you or done you wrong, caused you pain or suffering. And you know that you're still struggling, you're still holding on to this. See them sitting down in one of the chairs. The second person is a loved one. Someone who you feel you have a really beautiful, healthy, loving relationship with. Someone who brings peace and calm and joy into your life. And see person number 2 sit down at the next chair. And then the third person is a total stranger. It might be hard to even come up with an image or a face for them, a visual. Or they might pop in right away. But this third person represents neutrality. Someone who you've maybe never met. Maybe someone who lives completely around the world. They might have similarities in how they look. They might look very different. But that is person number 3 who sits down at the final chair. And on your next few breaths, just allow yourself to look at each of the people you're joined with. Seeing the stranger, seeing your loved one, and seeing the person who has hurt you. And you might notice tightness in your chest. You might notice your breathing get a little bit faster or maybe even stopping. Whatever energies or emotions you're feeling, just consciously breathe deeper into them, allowing yourself to bring relaxation back into your nervous system. Feeling your body calm down again a little bit. And this is going to be very interactive in the sense that I'm going to leave you here in silence for a moment, And I'm going to invite you to speak to person number 1, the person who has caused you pain, suffering, heartbreak, the person you've been struggling to forgive. And in this quantum space that we find ourselves in, you have the ability to share whatever's on your heart, whatever needs to be released. This could be expressing the ways they've hurt you. This could be sharing how you feel let down. This could be just releasing emotionally, letting the emotions come out. But I'm going to be quiet for about 30 seconds, and you can say this out loud verbally, or you can just say it in your mind. But just feel yourself releasing whatever emotional charge is coming up to this person. Okay. Letting any final words or emotions out. Noticing that you feel a little bit lighter. Maybe it doesn't feel perfect. Maybe you don't feel 100%. But just feeling the shift within you from getting to express what needed to be said. And then I invite you to look to person number 2. So this is your loved one. This is someone who brings you peace and joy and happiness and you feel safe with. And you could take a moment to express that to them if you'd like, just to share your thanks and your gratitude for the things you appreciate about them. But then I invite you to notice the sensation of compassion or love that you already have towards this person. So where person number 1 held a more negative, heavy charge, you're now seeing this loved one, this family member or dear person who's close to you in your life. And notice the contrast, the level, the frequency of love that you hold for them. The ways in which, although they haven't been perfect and they've probably made mistakes too in their life, the ways that you've been able to forgive them, the level of compassion that you've been able to hold in your heart towards them. And almost like this bubbling up of that forgiveness, that compassion, that love starts to come to the surface. Maybe it even begins to burst out of you. The beautiful energies of love. And this is really about noticing how you can feel towards someone who also isn't perfect and who's also made mistakes. But for whatever reason, the relationship was deeper, or the ways that they hurt you, the mistakes they made maybe didn't feel as big, they didn't feel as jarring. Really just noticing the shift in frequency from the person who has hurt you and the person who you love unconditionally. And then I'm going to invite you to bring your focus to person number 3, sitting down in the last chair, this stranger, this person you've never met, maybe you've never spoken to. You don't know anything about them. You don't know what they've lived through. You don't know what kind of pains they're carrying. You also don't know what mistakes they've made. So it's like a blank slate where there is no judgment. You truly don't know enough to judge. And so even though there may be differences, it's like your heart doesn't see them, doesn't feel them. And instead you just see this soul, this essence. You see or feel the purity of what is actually beneath every single one of us. And notice any sensations or emotions that you have towards person number 3. Maybe even though you don't know them, there's this kind of unspoken bond or this deep understanding. Maybe you get the feeling that you're not actually so different. Even if you don't speak the same language, or you don't look the same, or you have nothing in common, you don't know anything about each other. But there's just this compassionate understanding. This compassionate sense of oneness and unity. And now this is going to be a moment to embrace any of the positive emotions that have been coming through for you, and to solidify and strengthen them. It's also a moment to bring your awareness over each person. So going from the stranger to the loved one, to the person who has hurt you, and then all the way back. And seeing if it's possible for you to look at the person who has hurt you with the same unconditionally loving and compassionate eyes as your loved one. It's also a moment to notice if you can look at all of them with the forgiveness and the blank slate and the compassionate understanding of the stranger who you don't know their pain, you don't know their mistakes, and you're just looking at them with love. Really allowing a heart-to-heart connection maybe even a soul-to-soul connection to take place with each person. Realizing that in this moment, it's not about forgetting, it's not about ignoring or bypassing, pretending it didn't happen, but it's about choosing to love and forgive for the other and also for yourself. Because you deserve to feel good. Because you deserve to be in this beautiful state of love. And to not be holding on to any of this old pain, any of this resentment or trauma. Getting the sense that as you forgive the other, you're actually choosing to love yourself. And you're choosing to say that even though you did these things to me, and even though it hurt, I am worthy of freedom. I am worthy of feeling really good. I am worthy of feeling love every single moment of every day. And I don't want to hold my pain any longer. I don't want to be weighed down by the heaviness of what has happened or what you've done to me or the ways that it impacted me. I'm ready to let it all go. And as you take your next breath, breathe deep into that feeling and deep into that release. And then as you exhale, imagine that you are sending out any of the remaining energy, memories, pain, wounding, exhaling it, letting it go. Maybe you need to do that again on your next breath. Just allowing yourself to release and relax with every breath out. And then maybe taking one more scan of all three people at the table and seeing if you're closer to looking at them all through the same lens, with the same open, unconditionally loving heart, with the same forgiveness and compassion. If you're not quite there yet, that's okay. No judgment. That's perfectly fine. This might be something you need to practice multiple times. I know I did. So if you can't see all with the same lens, just begin to notice that it's lighter. And that it feels like possibly you'll be able to get to that point of forgiveness. Even if you're not there now, open to the reality where that exists. And open to the reality where you can walk through your life. And even if people trigger you, or they frustrate you, or they're different and you don't understand them, or they do something that causes you pain, where you're able to walk through life and not hold that against them, not fuel more energy of hatred or division or anger or frustration or pain. Where you're able to experience it and see it or feel it, but then let it go and know that you have the power to still choose love. And you have the ability to rise up and to stay in your heart instead of falling down into your wounding. So taking one more look at all three people at the table, I invite you to say any final words if there's anything coming through that needs to be said or expressed. Maybe you're able to give each person a hug. If that doesn't feel okay, you don't have to. You can just say goodbye. But almost getting the sense that as different as those three people seemed, it's all one. We are all fractals of the same creator. We're all fractals of consciousness. We're all playing each of those roles in other people's lives. We're all the same. We're all trying our best, even though sometimes it doesn't quite measure up, or sometimes it lets someone else down or causes pain. Seeing this and feeling a vortex, like a beautiful swirling of energy or light, or like a wind blowing through, and just removing any last illusions of separation, any last feelings of division. Realizing we're all the same. We're all the same. So how can I choose love? And then in that moment, you can stand up from your chair if you haven't already. Say one last final goodbye or one last look back to everyone sitting there, or to whoever remains. And then begin to start walking away. Again, noticing every step, every foot on the ground. But feeling the energy that you're now leaving behind, and the love, compassion, and forgiveness that is now in your vortex. You're now a walking bubble of more of this love, more of this compassion. And then see yourself walking right back to your physical body, wherever you are seated or laying down. Reconnecting and merging, feeling yourself fully present in your body. Taking a nice deep breath into your heart, feeling all the emotions of unconditional love in your heart, and exhaling out. And then bringing your awareness to your root chakra at the base of your spine, just beneath your hip bones, or between your hip bones, I mean. And take a nice deep breath into your root to ground this energy of forgiveness and love and compassion in. And then you can exhale out. Taking however long you need to slowly bring your awareness fully back, maybe gently wiggling fingers and toes. Gently stretching out. Taking a few more big breaths. Maybe a sigh, whatever you need. And then when you're ready, you can blink your eyes back open, returning into the room, returning into the present moment, and returning back into your heart. You're welcome. If you didn't have emotions come up during it, you may have emotions come up after. So I say it with any meditation or quantum healing work, subconscious work, to be extra kind to yourself. Drink lots of water. Nurture yourself with healthy foods today. Like, have a bath, self-care, journal, whatever you need. But be extra kind to yourself. I highly recommend journaling. That's always really powerful for me. And I think with something like forgiveness, when we are releasing heavy emotions towards someone, and these could be things we've held for years and years, potentially, right? Journaling about your experience, processing things, perhaps writing a letter that you never send, but you're just getting it all out on paper. That might be really helpful for you. Or maybe you feel like the meditation was enough and like you're at peace to close that chapter or release whatever you've been holding because of them, and to focus on being in that vortex of love, forgiveness, compassion, of seeing one another through the eyes just like we do with the stranger or with a loved one. Whatever lens feels least judgmental to you and most loving, that is the lens we want to practice as much as we can. And it's challenging. It's really hard because everyone is so programmed in judgment. So it's like a major rewiring, and I still struggle with it. So I don't know if it ever fully disappears. I hope it does. But allowing yourself to live each day as much as you can from a place of forgiveness, compassion, love. Knowing that we never fully understand the story of someone else or the pain of someone else, or the things that caused them to get where they are. So there's no point judging them, there's no point holding it. The most beneficial thing we can do from an energetic standpoint is to have love, to send love, to be compassionate, to be empathetic, to vibrate in that frequency and send that outwards, instead of dropping into the lower frequencies of hate, judgment, resentment, anger, guilt, shame, right? Even if we're projecting that on someone else, we're pulling ourselves into it as well. So you're damaging yourself, you're harming yourself every time you do that, which is why the more we can love ourselves, the deeper we can love another, and vice versa, right? So I thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this was a beautiful experience, and I will be back again next week to do another one for world peace, for love, for unity, for anything that is going to support us individually and collectively to send out more love and higher vibrations and literally be the change internally so that we can radiate that out externally and send that out into the world. So take this energy with you today. As I said, be extra kind to yourself. I'm sending you so much love and gratitude, and I will see you again very soon.